Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. For the past several days, the new Tyler Perry movie Divorce in the Black has been the talk of the town on social media. The movie follows the story of Ava and Dallas, played by Megan Good and Corey Hardrick. Ava and Dallas have been married for several years, and although we as a viewing audience don't really know the full extent of how toxic their marriage is, we just know that Ava is the purest angel on earth, while Dallas is Satan reincarnated. Now, Tyler Perry would have us as the viewing audience believe that Dallas is the main villain of the movie, and given how the Dallas character was written, there were not a whole lot of redeeming qualities about him. Dallas was verbally and physically abusive, and he was never shown appreciating how good Ava was to him. But it is my opinion that the main villain of the movie is none other than Ava's father, Clarence. Now, I know that this opinion may get some backlash, but if you give me just a few moments of your time, I'll be more than happy to lay out a case as for why Ava's father, Clarence, should be the main villain of the movie. The first reason that I want to talk about is the infamous funeral scene. In the beginning of Divorce in the Black, we as the viewing audience get to see Ava, Dallas, and his family. We learn that Dallas's brother had recently been released from prison, and he died after getting shot while trying to rob somebody. So right off the bat, Dallas's brother is not a sympathetic character, and some may even go as far as to say that he got what he deserved. But during this scene, Reverend Clarence uses the eulogy to take shots at Dallas, his family, and his deceased brother. Now, according to the dictionary, a eulogy is a speech or piece of writing that praises somebody or something highly. But in this scene, Reverend Clarence said absolutely nothing to praise Dallas's brother or his family. Reverend Clarence tore Dallas's family a new one, from the rooter to the tutor, and he went a step further to let the family know that they should be thankful that the church paid for the funeral. Now, I don't know about any of you out there, but I've never been to a funeral where the person giving the eulogy is being extremely messy or speaking down to the person that just died and their family. And this is an unwritten rule at funerals, because people tend to grieve at these type of events and emotions can be high. And the overwhelming majority of preachers tend to give positive eulogies because everybody knows that if some mess like this had ever happened like it did in the movie, then the sight of furniture moving would be the least of the preacher's problems. In my opinion, the manner in which Reverend Clarence conducted himself in this scene was unbecoming of a man of God. In my opinion, Reverend Clarence is a jackleg preacher. He's a charlatan. It is my opinion that Reverend Clarence intentionally stirred the pot in a public setting so that Dallas or his mother would do something crazy or foolish towards Ava, and Ava in turn would see the light and leave Dallas. This stunt didn't work like Reverend Clarence intended it to, and Ava remained by Dallas' side until Dallas asked for the divorce. And here's my thing when it comes to the dynamic between Ava and Dallas. Ava and Dallas did not need to be married to each other, but Reverend Clarence did himself no favors by trying to insert himself into Ava's marriage. One could argue that Reverend Clarence's stunt at the funeral caused Ava more harm than good, and we can't deny that Reverend Clarence did what he did for his own selfish reasons. Reverend Clarence then escalated things by trying to play on Ava's feelings by hooking her up with her long-lost love, Benji, before Ava had officially gotten a divorce and had time to properly heal from being in a toxic marriage with Dallas. This was problematic for a few reasons. For one, Dallas would have been perfectly fine divorcing Ava and moving on if he didn't suspect Ava had cheated on him with Benji. Dallas seeing recent pictures of Ava with Benji and catching Benji in Ava's bed is really what set him over the top, and for context purposes, we have to remember that Dallas just lost his brother during all the madness. So I definitely don't agree with how Dallas handled his marriage, the divorce, and the aftermath of the divorce. But one could argue that if Reverend Clarence had minded his own business and didn't try to play matchmaker with Ava so soon, Dallas would have been out of the picture and Ava would have been free to move on with her life. But lastly, I want to talk about Reverend Clarence and his decision to get a gun and roll up on Dallas and his family, all because Dallas grabbed his wife. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for a man protecting his family, but Reverend Clarence came off as somebody who put their faith in guns over their faith in God. Reverend Clarence went over to Dallas's residence like he was John Wayne, but he left in an ambulance because he allowed hate and negativity to consume him. And it was mighty convenient that Ava took Dallas out with a gun that was given to her by Reverend Clarence. Now, on a side note, I don't feel sorry that Dallas was sent to the upper room, but the way that Ava went about it was extremely foolish. Ava essentially committed a form of entrapment by lying to Dallas and playing on his emotions so that he would attack first, which in turn would give her justification to kill him. I'm convinced that Ava likely wouldn't have risked her life in order to take Dallas out if she didn't have all those guns that Reverend Clarence had given her. And the cherry on top was towards the end of the movie, Ava is wheeling Reverend Clarence out of the hospital and the family passes Dallas's family. During this time, Reverend Clarence opens his trap towards them, which gets them to react and tell Ava that it ain't over. You would think that by this time of the movie that Reverend Clarence had already learned his lesson, but he didn't. And all he and Ava did was cause more harm to an already grieving family. So in summary, I believe that Reverend Clarence was the villain in Divorce in the Black, because most of his words and actions in the movie were harmful, malicious, and rooted in him fulfilling his own selfish desires. I believe that if Reverend Clarence were truly a man of God, then most of the negative things that Ava experienced in the movie would have never happened. But that is my opinion, and I'd like to know what you all think about it. Is Clarence the real villain of the movie, or am I tripping? Feel free to leave your comments below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.